only knowing one person over in Western Australia, I literally just drove all the way to Perth and ended up at the Orange Grove Caravan Park, which is a pretty crazy place. While I was there was a murder, 2 suicides, a cot death and quite a few other things. This was a very crazy place, the Orange Grove Caravan Park. And anyway, I met this lady who ended up being my twin's mother. And we were at the caravan park for a while. I got done for drink driving, and so that's a story in itself on my own channel, how I got 2 coppers with a pizza. That's quite an alluring story, but it's a long one. So after that we ended up moving up to Bindoon on this little farmhouse and so forth, and we're there for a little while, and something happened and we sort of got out of there, and we decided to head back to Victoria. Anne-Marie had a daughter at that stage who was about 7 or 8 at the time, and while we were in Perth getting it organised, she decided she'd join this religious cult and go to Sydney, and I was to meet her in Melbourne, so she left me with her daughter and my dog Omar, and at the age of 9 on this old clapped out 754 Honda, I loaded me, the dog and Lisa on the back of the bike, and we rode from Perth to Melbourne, which literally took us a week. Got into Melbourne, found my way down to Brother Beat's place out at a place just out the other side of Warragul there, Darnham. Was renting a house out there, and Anne-Marie was just driving me nuts with her stuff. So basically I just asked her in the door just to leave, go. Didn't think much of it. They made their way back to Perth. I moved back into Melbourne, and I was living with a really good mate of mine, Ali Cat, and his wife Jen, and so forth. I was working for skilled engineering, making about $1,500 a week. I was smoking and drinking heaps. Had 4 women on the go. Life was just so bloody cruisy. It was just crazy times. And then I get a phone call that Anne-Marie's pregnant. And I'm like, well, I don't give a fuck. And anyway, time went on a bit further, and then I get another phone call, and I find out she's pregnant with twins. And I said, same thing, I don't give a fuck. And anyway, one of my friends over in Perth rang me up and said, oh, what are you doing? You know, Anne-Marie, she's got all her faculties back. You've lost your first son in a failed relationship, blah, blah, blah. You know, you really should do this, that and the other. So basically, sold up everything again, packed up me and my bike and my dog, gave up, like I said, I'm not kidding, I had 4 women on the go. I was making what, $1,500 a week take home pay. I was just smoking heaps of hooch, and I was drinking heaps and just running amok in Melbourne, and just literally gave it all up and drove all the way back to Perth. So I was at my natural mum's in Epping, and I rang up Anne-Marie and basically said, well, I'm leaving for Perth. And she said, well, I'm going into labour. Jumped in the car, or the ute, I had a HT ute at that stage with my Honda 4 on the back and my dog, and started driving to Perth. And I made Melbourne to Perth literally in 44 hours. I had 1 hour sleep out the desert across Tailem Bend somewhere, and another hour sleep somewhere across the desert. I picked up this hitchhiker who was an absolute pain in the ass. I put the dog in the back of the ute and had this hitchhiker in front, and the whole way across, I picked him up at Cevanties. And all the way across he kept badgering me to play his bloody Billy Joel tape. So at the end of the day I chucked him in the back of the ute and put the dog back in the cab, because I didn't want to play his shitty old Billy Joel tape. Got into Midland, dumped him out of the car, went straight around the hospital. I think the kids were about 12 years old, and that was my twins that were born. So I ended up being moving up to Bindoon yet again, out the other side of Chittering, and just became a dad to my twins. Just like full-time dad. I was washing and changing their nappies and keeping the firewood and everything up like that. At the stage, the house was sort of here, and the clothesline was way over there, and we had this shitty old twin tub. So basically I just towed the twin tub out to the washing machine, hooked up a garden hose and a power cord, and just washed all the nappies there and then under the bloody clothesline, and did all that. Anyway, Anne-Marie and I were raising the kids, and we got moved on from a few places. Like everywhere we went, somehow Anne-Marie always got us evicted, just the way she was. We're down in Midland one day, and we're driving around, and there was this little old Bedford school bus, not like a 30-footer, it was only a very small Bedford school bus. So I ended up swapping my bike and a car, and we bought the bus. And then we ended up scoring a high-ace camper van, and for a little while her and I were living out of the camper vans and stuff like that. Oh no, I've jumped ahead too far. I want to go back to when I went, that's right. I want to go back to where we left the place in Bindoon. So we're living on this little farmhouse not far from the tip in Bindoon, and for some reason we wanted to get out of here there. Like, this is all before the kids were born. We wanted to get out of there, and I just knew I had to come back to Melbourne for some reason. And that's, like I said, that's when she sort of hooked up with this culty thing. She went over to Sydney with them and left her daughter with me at the age of 9, and we're living at these drug dealers' house selling black Afghani hash. And so anyway, it's time to get out of there. Sold all the bikes and everything like that. Oh yeah, it was crazy. Good hash though. And so anyway, this poor girl sat on the back of my bike all the way from Perth back to Victoria, and it was freezing cold. I mean, I lost one of it. She lost a gumboot somewhere between Port Augusta and Port Wakefield. We slept under a Pizza Hut in Adelaide, going up the Adelaide Hills, and when everyone closed up shop, they actually brought us down some pizzas. The bike started breaking down and going across the Nullarbor in quite a few spots, and things were going wrong. But anyway, finally made it back into Melbourne, and then down to my brother Pete's place, where he was with his wife Karen, in a place called Cloverley. That's where we were, in Cloverley. And anyway, things got sort of pretty bad, and I asked Anne-Marie to move out and so forth, and I ended up moving back into Melbourne. Anyway, I get a letter. My folks rang me up and said, "Oh, we've got a letter down here for you. It's come from some sort of the adoption agency." Turns out they'd found my mum. I was 27 at this stage, so I applied at 23, and it took them 5 years to actually find my natural mum. And I was staying at a friend's place in Dandenong, so I thought, right, when I go and meet my mum, I'm going exactly how I am. I'm not going to go in wearing a suit and tie or anything like that. And so, being winter time, I rode into this place where I was supposed to meet her at some Christian joint, and I was in full dress leathers. Meaning I had my leather pants, I had my leather jacket, I had my scunge on, I had my dog with me, and Mum walked through the door, and poor woman, she just literally burst into tears and just hugged me and hugged me and hugged me. And we just sat there talking for absolutely ages. I mean, you know, I was taken off this woman at birth. Now, she married and had a family of her own. Now, her husband Jeff knew all about me, but her 3 children knew nothing of me. And the day she got the letter that she was going to meet me, she told her oldest daughter that, by the way, you've got a brother, and I'm about to go and meet him. And Michelle was just absolutely over the moon. She always wanted an older brother. So anyway, we're at the place where I met my mum, and they sort of walked in after about half an hour and said, "Look, we've got other people coming in, you guys need to go." And then Mum just said, "Well, do you want to come back and meet the rest of the family?" And I thought, hell yeah, why wouldn't I? So I followed her all the way back to Epping. So I got my dog standing on the petrol tank on my old Honda 754, and we rolled into Mum's place in Epping. I walked through the door with my dog, and they never allowed dogs in the house, but I was allowed to walk in with my dog. And my younger brother Sean was sitting there. He took one look and just gone out the door. Just fucking took off out the door. So anyway, he comes back that night at about 11 o'clock, and I'm still sitting there. And he goes, "Mum, who the F is that guy there?" And she said, "Oh, that's your brother." And he's like, "What?" And like, "Yeah, that's your brother. You didn't know him before, but anyway, I had him before you guys were born, and he's actually your older brother." It turns out, like, Sean was a real rebel. At the age of 15, 16, he was out living with a 23-year-old and doing all sorts of illegal shit and whatever he did. And he thought Mum and Jeff, like Mum's husband Jeff, was so didn't know what to do with him that he actually thought they brought in God Squad to clean him up. And if you don't know who God Squad is, that's a Christian bike group in Melbourne. So Sean took one look at me and my dog walking in the house and thought, "Oh God, Mum's gone and brought God Squad in, I'm out of here." And just literally took off out the door. So anyway, when we come home, first thing is, "That's your brother." We started chatting straight in the bedroom, bongs, you know what I mean, just into it. At the end of the day, Sean and I didn't really get along, and he's actually now deceased for certain reasons. But so I met my natural mum, and she told me the story how, well, it's pretty much like the, I don't know if anyone knows the movie Puberty Blues, and don't want to say this about my mum, but she was sort of the mole in the panel van where 3 guys offered to give her a lift home, drove her out bush and basically say, you know, you do all 3 of us, or you walk home. And of course, being a young 15-year-old girl, that's exactly what happened. And like I said, all we know is it wasn't the redhead. This is probably a bit sick. So at a 50th birthday party up in Melbourne, I was down on the farm in Sale again, doing my tour of duty on the farm. I dyed my hair fire engine red, like literally long hair, fire engine red, and I walked into the party and I went, "Mum, it was the redhead." Well, that obviously went down like a lead balloon. So anyway, that was that. So anyway, the part of this story is about mum and adoption and everything. My story turned out to be a success story. So I ended up going back to Perth, like I said, to raise my kids and be like that. And then when I was over there, mum said, "Oh, Sean's getting married." So they offered to fly me back to Victoria for the wedding. Now, mum didn't want, my adoptive mum down in Sale did not want to meet my natural mum. My dad was all cool about it, he didn't mind, but my adoptive mum she just couldn't cope with it. So anyway, so mum's flying me over and we're in Sale and she said, "I'm driving you to Sale to meet the parents." I said, "What?" And she said, "Well, I flew you over at my expense, you're taking me to Sale to meet your parents." And of course, when I met mum, I told her all the horror stories about being beaten and flogged and, you know, how life was shit and how I ran away from home. And poor mum, she was just heartbroken about the whole story and so forth. So anyway, I rang up the parents and said, "Look, you know, mum's bringing me down. Hope you're all okay about it." So I drive down to Melbourne. Mum and dad met Bev, my natural mother, and they just got on like a house on fire. And from that point on, excuse me, that's all right. Regain my patient. From that time on, they became the best of friends, like absolutely the best of friends. They're always in contact. And anytime I was either in Victoria or wherever and going to see my mum, Bev always drove down to Sale. If I was back in Melbourne, mum would drive me down to Sale to go and see mum and dad in Sale, my adoptive parents. And it literally just turned out to be a complete success story. Now, I've met a lot of other blokes around my age that were in the same situation, stolen but white. And they went looking for their parents or their natural mothers and stuff, and a lot of the time either the kids didn't want to know their mothers because they didn't give a shit about why it happened, or the mothers wanted nothing to do with the child. Where I met my mum and she just doted on me for the first little while and like just absolutely, and then like I said, hand forced me to go to Sale and meet my adoptive parents. Anyway, moving on a little bit, getting back to the story of, you know, I went back to Perth and I started raising my twins and everything like that. Flew me back to Sean's wedding, I went back home, and then Anne-Marie was in this fucking cult thing. Like born-again Christians, just absolute mental cases. So I was around there, I went and saw Anne-Marie one night and went and saw the kids. They were probably about 4 or 5 at the time. And so I had a few drinks that night and I said, well, I'm not going to go drink driving. So I parked my bus out of the front of the house where Anne-Marie was staying. And next minute I got this banging on this bus door, "Get out of here, you're a fornicator, you're a fornicator." And I'm like, I opened the door, I'm still fucking hungover, like at 5 o'clock in the morning. And this Christian guy's going off, "You're a bloody fornicator, you've got to get off the property." I'm like, "What the fuck? Mate, I slept in the bus." No, you have to get out of here. And I literally packed up the bus and drove off. And anyway, it was getting really hard to see my kids because of this Christian group she was in, just absolute nutcases. So then she decided she was going to go and house sit this farm down in Ceduna, which was about 6 hours out of Perth. And basically she said if I wanted to come down and see the kids, I'd be able to go down and see the kids, but every night I had to leave the property. I was not allowed to stay on the property because that was classed as fornication in her Christian views. So I offered to marry her. I said, "Well, how about we get married then?" And she said yes. So anyway, we organised the wedding, and we were living out of buses and that at that stage. We never had a permanent residency. I was in my little bus, she had the other camper van that we had, and we'd often, well, at that stage we weren't even living together, so I'd go and grab the twins for 2 weeks at a time and take them off in the bus, and I was living out the back of the Tipper Bindoon. I mean, I had this little bus and I had this trailer, and on the trailer of all my gear I had these 2 big 20-litre water tanks and tubs, so I used to wash the nappies in the black water, rinse them in the grey water, but they still managed to have clean nappies. I didn't use disposables because I didn't even know how to put a disposable on. So for those